Hello and welcome to Oak Road Hatters Put in the Mixer. Today, backed by popular demand, I'm your host, Ollie K, and I'm bringing you the only analytic show focusing exclusively on Luton Town. And with me, as always, is the man who knows so much about analytics, the beautiful mind, Andy Burgess. How are you getting on, Burge?
Yeah, I was going to let you keep talking, actually. No, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Doing well, thanks. I'm looking at the results that are currently going on in play. For the purpose of people watching this, we're recording this during the midweek game, so we're keeping a keen eye on Blackburn, Sunderland, Norwich, and Millwall. But we got a lot to talk about today, haven't we? Not a lot of goals, unfortunately, but some good football, contrary to what Paul Ince might say. So, Burge, you were lucky enough to be up there as the summariser for Stato Pits up in Preston North End. What did you make of that game?
Yeah, loads and loads to like about it. I thought we dominated for long periods. Phenomenal amount of chances. Loads of chances to win the game. Should have been dead and buried. And we're not just talking half chances. We're talking real good, clear cut chances. And you always have that concern, especially in the Championship, that it's going to have the ability to come back and bite you on the backside. Having said that, when you get the goal through Carlton Morris, you're then expecting you to go on. But there are no clubs at this level that are going to throw the towel in. There's danger around every corner, if you like, and in the blink of an eye, teams can score goals. And we've been on the end now. We'll look at that in a little bit of detail. On the end of two penalty decisions, two handballs. Who knows the rules? Got absolutely no idea what the rules are or what is handball and what isn't. But in terms of the Preston game, I think there was loads and loads of real good stuff. And obviously things to improve on. No more so than our play in and around or our final finish in front of goal.
So, Virg, you mentioned about creating all the chances and danger lurking around each corner. So we created a lot of chances as dictated by the XG, RXG, or expected goals, the positions that we take up in the goal, the goal scoring possibilities and the chances created of 3.39 for us and 1.19 for Preston, although that was mostly due to their penalty, which takes up a considerable amount of their XG. We did find the breakthrough after lots of big chances missed, and it was a well-worked goal by Carlton Morris. If you want to roll that clip.
Yes, no problem. To the naked eye, I think it was probably quite a basic goal. 2v2, I think probably the group work on that or teams work on that every day in training. And it's about getting out of that area, getting out of that 2v2, be better than the 2v2, be brighter, good little bit of movement off the ball from Clark. And then you can just see the eye line in the top right of your corner, what Morris is seeing and what the defender's seeing. And Morris is in a great position. It's awful defending, it has to be said. We'll come back to that, but it's not a massive area that Morris has got to go and attack. You've got the fullback who he's looking after, I think, on Dimna. But Morris just shows more desire, more heart, more willingness to go and win that ball and win that header. And it's quite a simple goal. I'll run it again, but there are little facets of it that make it more easy or less easy to say it's just a simple goal. Again, 2v2. You need that little bit of movement from Jordan Clark to create half a yard of space for Amari Bell. Then you see again, top right of your picture, awful body shape from the Preston centre. I don't know if it's Davis. Morris has got him behind him. He can see him. The defender can't see Morris. And then it's about desire. It's about wanting to get to that ball before the fullback. The fullback's got perhaps 2 yards to come and attack it. He hasn't done that. Morris has probably got 2 yards to get away from it. So it's a more difficult header for Morris because he's going away from the ball. He's got to generate the power that the ball had taken off it from the cross that's been deflected up in the air. And he shows real desire and heart to get to the ball, win the ball, not only win the ball, direct it back to goal. It must have been quite close because when I watched it during the replays, it didn't look that far over the line. But I think probably one of the best pieces of technical things that's come into the game is the goal line technology. Technology is the goal line, because I would guess that goal perhaps wouldn't have counted if it wasn't for goal line technology, because it would have been that tight. So, but again, looking back at the goal, good wing play, good play from Clark and Bell to create the opportunity. Again, it's another delivery from the left. And again, Morris just shows more heart, more desire, great starting position to peel off the centre half and get behind him. And then the ability and quality to arc that neck and head it into the goal. And at that time, I thought it was going to be enough to go and win the game. And unfortunately, it wasn't to be.
Yeah, it's a goal that we've seen quite a lot. Good wing play, stick it into the back stick, and then either Elijah or Carlton's there to nod it in. So that was on the 73rd minute, and then the game sort of turned on its head in the 81st minute, and it really was against the run of play. If you have any thoughts about that, like from my perspective, watching on iFollow, it really did look like it was against the run of play.
I think for 80 minutes, Preston were one of the worst teams I've seen for a long, long time. They were so poor. I've never seen so many throw-ins be kicked out of play. Just little 5-yard throw-ins, give and go, the thrower throws it, give it back to the thrower, get kicked out of play. They look devoid of confidence. They look devoid of energy. Certainly look devoid of an idea of how they wanted to approach the game and play. And you never really felt that they were going to threaten. You felt when Luton scored, you felt it was game over, and you felt it was 3 points. Whether the lads maybe felt that, but having said that, then Horvath never really came under any pressure. It was just that real initial bit just before the penalty, the build up to the penalty, where we switched off a little bit, where I felt, and we'll look at the clip in a minute, I felt we got a little bit disjointed, and that tiny little bit allows an opportunity for Preston to get in behind us. And then, obviously, as we spoke about the handball, I think it probably is a handball. His hand's up by his head. But it's so frustrating and so disappointing to have thrown. We threw away those 2 points, 100%.
Bird, you were saying before about how goal line technology is the best thing that's been brought in. I agree with you in that sense. But I feel the need for video assistant referees in the EFL is actually something that needs to be brought in, because we're not seeing consistency across the decisions being made. For instance, in this game, a handball is given against Tom Lockyer, whereas conversely, in the game against Coventry earlier on at the Kenny last season, McFadzean made a great save and it wasn't flagged by the referee. Although this penalty that Preston North End were given was the correct decision ultimately.
Yeah. If I run the clip, I think firstly, we were in a decent block, pretty much low block. But for me, it's just that movement where Burke goes out. There's no need for Burke to vacate that area. Certainly no need to go as wide as that. The danger has got to be central. If it goes to the wide boy, fine. If not, if Burke goes out, I can see that the gap's too big and it allows the space. And you can see the hand is up. And for me, listen, I don't. He's not meant to handball it. For me, it should be, if it's intentional, then it should be a handball. He hasn't meant to do it. Okay, they talk about natural position and everything, but I think as he's gone, his arms come up. But I can obviously see, and I can empathise with the officials why they've given the penalty there. And it's not very often you hear me say that. But I do think the big thing about it is probably Burke Reece Burke switching off, not necessarily switching off, but going with the runner when he doesn't need to, because that makes the fullback, the left back's mind up to play that ball over the head of Nakamba. I think it is, and into that space. Whereas if Burke stayed alongside Lockyer, and even if the ball does go to the wide player, he can get out there. He can get out there and deal with it. Burke's almost on the touchline, opens up the gap, opens up the space for the ball to be played into, and isolates Lockyer, if you like. And it was just that was what, that split second of Reece Burke. Again, it's not really switching off, but that of Reece Burke just drifting out of his position. When we're in the Championship, it gets exploited, and they're players, they're good players who can identify that. Listen, we're only talking probably 5, 6, 7 yards. If Burke stays alongside Lockyer, we could probably maybe talk better to, I think it's Onyedinma in front of him. He could probably say, show him wide or show him in field, wherever Burke wants him to go. Have that communication and dictate to Fred where to show the player in possession of the ball, which means he doesn't have to go out wide, or he can be ready to go out wide to close the ball if it goes there. The best ball that can possibly happen is it goes wide. And when you go and close a player down, you're told show him backwards or sideways, And in that instance, I think Burke's just been too keen to go and stop the ball going wide, drift out of position, and the fullbacks thought, right, slide it down the side of the centre half, pull Lockyer across. I think they also, it's difficult to see, but if I just run it again, I would also maybe question whether Bell needs to be as deep as he is, because he's playing him onside. And I think if you actually see, as the ball's played, Lockyer steps up even a yard or two, and potentially if I think there you can see he's probably a yard offside, maybe. It's probably tight, but he's probably a yard offside. If Bell is with him, Osho's with him, not Bell. Osho goes with him, he would probably be offside as well. So we are talking fractions, and we're talking little tiny things. But that little tiny thing of Burke just drifting out of position, of Osho maybe not squeezing, holding a line with Lockyer at this level, that costs you. And that little bit of quality from Preston to just find the channel ball to get. Listen, if he crosses it as well and misses Burke, I think Osho probably feeds it back to the keeper, or Horvath comes to get it. So it's such fine lines. And in a game where you miss so many gilt-edged chances, and then they have that one opportunity to win a penalty and score from a penalty spot, it just totally and utterly epitomizes the Championship and how cutthroat and what a high level of performance you have to have for 97 minutes every week. And that penalty, that goal epitomizes it, really.
So you're mentioning how it can change that quickly. We could have actually lost the game, surprisingly. I believe it was maybe Cannon that had a chance right at the death, and it flashed past the post.
Yeah, I mean, listen, whoever you're playing against in the Championship, whether they're an informed team, a team at the top, a team struggling at the bottom, mid-table with what's said as nothing to play for, you're going to come up against quality players. You're going to come up against good teams. Teams are going to keep going. Preston in front of their home crowd. I don't think they'd won a game at Deepdale since November, so they were desperate to do well, and they probably were too desperate. They were that poor, as I said earlier. But no, it was one that, again, one of the strangest games of football we'll see for a long time. But I did the commentary last year at Deepdale. We lost 2-0, and nobody was really surprised. The fact that we've come away having could have easily won the game 4 or 5-1. Could have potentially won it 4 or 5-0. Speaks volumes about where as a team and as a football club Luton Town have come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've certainly come a long way, and even since Nathan Jones has left, we've been playing some pretty spectacular football. It's been in the news that Paul Ince had a little back and forth with a local reporter, and he used Luton Town as an example of playing bad football. So I believe you have a clip from Preston North End that shows how good our football can be.
Yeah, I think it's really lazy, and I think it's really easy to label us a direct team, because I've seen enough of us to know that we play pragmatic football. When we have to play, when we want to, when we need to play long, or a little bit direct, or on diags, or back to front, whichever way you want to call it. Why wouldn't we do that when we've got a player like, or players like Colton Morris and Elijah Adebayo in the team? Why at times to relieve pressure, to get us up the pitch, to win second balls in and around the penalty area? Why would we not go from back to front? That it's just sensible. It just common sense tells you that will get you up the pitch. And then when you go into Colton Morris or you go into Elijah Adebayo, and he either wins the flick, he either wins the first one, brings it down and brings you into play, you're 50 yards closer to their goal. And you've got players backing up. You've got Clark close to him. You've got Pelly close to him. You've got Alan Campbell close to him. You've got the wide boys hot, nice and high. So it's dead easy to say they go back to front really quick. Because if you see this clip and the clip you're talking about, this builds to Jordan Clark's 2 chances. So Osho's on the ball. And this is what I'm talking about. He's 15 yards in our half and we go long. We have a 50-yard ball, but a quality ball towards Colton Morris. There's a bit of a ricochet. It lands. We have a splash ball on the edge of the box and we pick it up, okay? Nakamba gives it away. Again, we've got bodies around it. And eventually, we pick the ball up here with Jordan Clark. So we are now, again, 10, 15 yards outside the penalty area. And now we build. And every single Luton Town player touches a ball in this move. Every single player. So there's absolutely no chance Paul Ince can say that we don't play any football, because you just have to show him this clip. You've got midfielders in rotation. You've got Nakamba on the ball as you pivot there, gives it to Pelly Ruddock, who's another midfielder. You've got triangles. You've got people running off the ball. You've got your wing backs nice and high. Forwards coming in to join in. And ends up with a shot on goal, 3 shots on goal. 1 with a good save and 2 with 2 fantastic blocks. So if Paul Ince wants to watch that, and I haven't had to trawl through 7, 10, 15, 20, 25 games of footage to find that. That was 2 games ago against Preston. And we've got a clip in the Burnley game when we've had similar build-up. Maybe not as good as that, but that is so typical of how we play. Yes, okay, we might get it forward quick, but that's to build higher up the pitch. And because we're not smashing it up to somebody who isn't going to win a knockdown or isn't going to have a fight ball, we're playing it up to 2 players who I'd say probably 75% of the time win that first ball, and then we create and then we build. We get wing backs nice and high. The amount of crosses that come in from either Bell previously, but Drame, Bell on the other side, Doherty, the crosses they get in the game. If you're a direct team, that doesn't happen. So I think it's a nonsense. I think it's lazy. And I think it's a deflection from somebody telling him that his team doesn't play enough football.
The last thing on that Preston game, that Fernandez looked really handy. And I believe they brought him in especially just to deal with Fred on the right wing. I believe he's on loan from Man United, so he's probably got a good career ahead of him. He made a great clearance off the line from Clark in that chance that you just showed. But also staying on the idea of pure football that Luton Town play, we mixed it against Burnley as well, and Burnley are known for dominance of possession, playing beautiful football. They pivoted really nicely from Dyche ball to the style that Vincent Kompany has seamlessly implemented, and again, we mixed it with them, and you have some nice footage of some build-up in the Burnley game.
Yeah, absolutely, and we certainly did. We more than matched them, I thought, football-wise, and the comments from Vincent Kompany after the game, I think were very complimentary. A lot more complimentary. Some of the Burnley fans in the Oak Road end who are perhaps used to their prawn sandwiches, but it's if we click on this clip, this is the build up to a real good chance for Elijah Adebayo. Again, building from one side to the other. When you play those wide centre halves, it's important that you try and do that. and you try and create those overloads down one side. But listen, this is football. That's Premier League football, and it's a fabulous chance for Elijah, which on another day he would have taken. But the movement, and I show it again, the movement off the ball. Sorry, I show it. The movement off the ball again, going from one side to the other, getting that overload on one side, shifting them across, dominating possession, and then it's about running forward. Obviously, body facing forward, and then this inside space run is you see every week in the Premier League now, and it's about running forward, and then the quality to pick somebody out and create that chance, and that goes in the back of the net. That's just quality football from back to front. Again, lots of players involved in the move, lots of players on the ball, and moving them about, asking questions of them. It's about players prepared to run forward, run off the ball, see if opposition players want to run the other way, which they don't like doing. Nobody really likes running the other way. And it was a real good opportunity, and one that I'm sure he'll be kicking himself at. He's had he had a tough week, Elijah, but I'd be more concerned if he wasn't in the positions to miss the chances. The goals will certainly, I think, will come. But yeah, again, real good move, good build-up play, good approach play, great running off the ball, and almost a goal at the end of it.
Yeah, it really was some nice build-up. It's a shame that Elijah has been missing a couple of chances. Do you think this is sort of a lack of confidence, although he has come off scoring 5 and 5? So what do you think is going through his mind right now?
Yeah, it was a strange one. I mean, as you say, 5 and 5 and went up to Preston, and the first chance that he misses was a real strange one because he had a fantastic touch. It was a great ball to him, a fantastic touch to set himself, and he seemed to hit it. We said in commentary, he seemed to hit it like he thought he'd given a foul away, and it was he could have done anything. He should have probably had a touch and just slotted it. He could have lobbed the keeper. Maybe he could have had another touch taken it. There's loads of things he could have done, and I think that was a bad miss. And I don't know whether that's just playing on his mind a little bit. But he does look like he's lacking confidence. But on the back of 5 and 5, you'd say maybe it's just a fact that he's had a good run of goals, and it's just catching up with him a little bit now, where he's gone a couple of games and he's not got one. So we know he's got the ability. We know he can score goals at this level. We know he's got brilliant attributes in his size, his athleticism. He scares defenders to death. I think there's so much more to him about his game than there is just scoring goals. And I think fans will look at him as a striker and say, that's what he's paid for. It is, but he brings far more to Luton Town than just goals. As I say, he scares defenders to death. The Watford game, where James Collins came off the bench and scored the penalty. I'll never forget the first. I think I've said it before. The first header that he wins, the centre half was scared to death after that. Didn't want to go up for a header. So he's so, he draws so many free kicks and draws so much attention from opposition defenders that I think we have to look just beyond his goals. Of course, he's a centre forward and he needs to be scoring goals. But I do think it will come. He has scored 5 and 5 previous to the last 2 games. So he's not, he's got 5 and 7. If anybody says that's a bad return, then, they want to see the level that he's playing at and where he's come from, because it's a fantastic return. So I think we just have to stick with him, believe in him. I think he's a type of player who will thrive off the fans being behind him and singing his song. I still say, Carlton Morris and Elijah Adebayo up front for any team at this level, anyone would take that.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a great return. 5 and 7. It still looks good. Hopefully he can get his head back in the game if that's what players need to do, and he can notch a goal against Birmingham on the weekend. It'll really help his confidence. So in the 77th minute, deja vu again, back-to-back games where we've given away a penalty from a handball. And we were looking pretty good up until this point, Burge, weren't we?
Yeah, we were. We were in a game. We were, went toe to toe with them really, and it was a frustrating one. If we load it up, from the free kick, I think we're in a good position here. You've got Osho and Bell 2v1. I think they'll be disappointed here. We haven't dealt with this, especially Bell, because Bell gets in front of the defender. I think Lockyer will be disappointed as well, because I think he expects Bell to deal with it, in fairness, but you've got to expect the unexpected. And I think Lockyer will have looked at that and thought, I've got to get back across. I should have got across earlier. And then that for me is that's a harsh one, because his arm's down by his side. Again, it's happened in a split second. If he's meant to move his arm towards it, it's happened in a real split second. He's jumped a little bit, which is probably frustrating for him again. But I think that's a lot more harsh than the first one. Lockyer's at Preston for me. But again, I'll say it. I think in this position here, Lockyer will probably think he should have got across a little bit quicker. Bell, I think, will think I should have dealt with this better. He's probably looking to hook it high up the pitch, just hook it for a throw. Lockyer get across even 5 yards, even 2 yards, and he probably clears that danger. Then he's a little bit powder puff with his challenge, and Osho jumps just before he goes in for the challenge. And again, that for me is a harsh one. I can probably just about see why he's given it, but if you're on the end of that, I think you're disappointed. And I think, again, like the Preston one, it's little details and little things that we could have done better at. Again, it's Lockyer's probably a yard, 2 yards. If he just gets across to the danger a little bit quicker earlier, as that gets hooked back across Osho's head, Lockyer's probably there to clear it out. Again, it's all about hindsight, and that's what analysis is about. But they're the differences. If he did just get across, he was there to clear it, and you probably you look at going in and getting another point from the game. So again, a disappointing one in terms of the build up, because you feel that it could have been dealt with, but a harsh one for me.
So Tom Lockyer was quite rightly aggrieved about the penalty being given, because with handballs, it's kind of it's no one knows the rules anymore. Was the hand in an unnatural position? Was it not? Was it accidental? Was it intentional? No one knows the rules anymore. But then Tom Lockyer goes and talks himself into the book, and then a minute later he talks himself into a red card. What's going through his mind, Burge?
Listen, Sonny Bradley was on co-coms on iFollow, and he, he couldn't really stick up for him. So I'm not going to try. I think he'll feel horrendous about it, because, listen, I talked myself into a lot of yellow cards, but as soon as I got a yellow card, there was not a chance I was talking myself into a red card. Absolutely no chance. There's no way I'd be able to go into the dressing room and look players in my teammates in the eyes if I'd have taught myself. Listen, if you get 2 bookings for 2 tackles, if you get 1 for dissent and 1 for a tackle, lads can almost half take it, because that happens in football at times. Emotions are high. He was obviously frustrated. It probably spilled over from Tuesday, the penalty coming against us at Preston, especially him getting it against us. And I think the way the game had gone and how hard the boys had worked, and he probably sensed that, if they scored, they'd probably see the game out and things like that. And he probably, it's just, but he's he's just gone to the World Cup. He's experienced football at the absolute highest level you possibly can. So we're not talking about, Gabe Osho, who, has had the red card at Watford for an incident, and has had 1 or 2 other incidents where you go, okay, he's youngish and inexperienced, perhaps more than young, and you can just about give him the benefit of the doubt, but not Tom Lockyer in that instance. He has to. I'd like to think that he's gone in that dressing room, and when the rest of the lads have come in, he's apologised. And listen, I don't know what the dressing room's like. I've been in dressing rooms where lads have apologised, and it's the worst thing they possibly could have done because it just antagonises the situation. But I think 9 times out of 10, if lads apologise wholeheartedly and they hold their hands up, then you have to say, okay, as long as it doesn't happen again, I suppose, and as long as you're sincere with it, and he, I think Tom Lockyer he looks like a wonderful character and somebody who's a huge part of the group, which I think will probably disappoint the manager and disappoint his teammates even more, especially the fact that we're going to miss him now for Birmingham. Bradley probably isn't had enough training to come back in, and we know we're a little bit short on centre halves. So the bigger picture is it was a horrendous decision from Tom to keep going on. I think the second yellow was for clapping, which some referees might laugh off, some referees might have just ignored, but obviously this fella used it as an opportunity to brandish his red card.
Fortunately, when Lockyer was sent off, although it was a bit strange that the fans applauded him off, I don't quite know what that was about. I know we all appreciate Tom Lockyer, but he left us in a lurch for the last 10 minutes, and it could have been so much worse. But as Nathan Jones says, again, it's harder playing against 10 men, because the last 10 minutes of that game, we were well on top, weren't we, Burge?
Yeah, I mean, going back to your first point, Tom Lockyer, I think you text me in the game or text the group in the game. He made a phenomenal block in the second half to stop a certain goal. But I'm with you. He has let the boys down, especially in the fashion that he's been sent off. To be clapped off does feel not quite right to me. I think it probably is because it's him and because of who he is and because he is 100% playing, and the fans probably understood. It was like, I think I remember Kevin Nichols being sent off against QPR at Kenilworth Road, and he walked off making the signs to the QPR fans behind the goal in the Oak Road. And, I think Luton fans are just like that type of character, maybe, that is just wholehearted and absolute wears their heart on their sleeve. But yeah, it doesn't perhaps sit too right that, he did get clapped off after letting the football club down a little bit. But and then the second point is, do you know what I think probably, you're a goal up. You've been really gone toe to toe with for 80 minutes in terms of Burnley's point of view. You're in a cauldron at Kenilworth Road. You've got the fans galvanized because of what's happened. You're probably, as an away player, they've got a lot of Premier League players in that group. As many of them felt that type of atmosphere, they've probably been the other end of it, because Burnley have been that Premier League team who have been in those situations and been the underdogs and been the smaller club, if you like. And I don't mean that as the fact that Luton's a smaller club than Burnley, but I mean in terms of current maybe stature and where Burnley have been in recent years, just to clarify that. So maybe they felt a little bit, definitely felt they're top of the league and they should be going, they should be going to places and winning. They've been on a long run, and they probably felt, wow, we need to hold on to this. And perhaps that means subconsciously that they dropped off and took a step back. And it can be difficult if the opposition come at you and the opposition have a right go. Playing against 10 men isn't always easy. So I can understand where Nathan Jones is coming from on that point. And we did make it an uncomfortable 10 minutes for them. And unfortunately, we got nothing out of the game.
You had me worried there for a minute, Burge. I thought you had a touch of the Graham Joneses calling us Little Luton. No,
I didn't mean it that way. I just meant Burnley have obviously been a Premier League club in recent years. I certainly wouldn't say that Burnley is a bigger football club. Genuinely wouldn't say that Burnley is a bigger football club than Luton. They've just probably been at a higher level in the more recent seasons. Is the angle I was coming at?
Yeah, historically we've outperformed them, spent more time in the top division. Absolutely. I guess historically, but obviously more recent Premier League money and 7 consecutive seasons at the top. It just really does go a long way to build the infrastructure of a club. But hopefully we'll be there next year and we can get a taste of that sweet Premier League money.
Be nice. It would be nice as long as it doesn't ruin us, like people who win the lottery and spend it all on fast cars and loose women.
Well, maybe Gary Sweet will change his number and we'll never see him again. Nah, it would never happen. Nah, it'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
It would. It would.
Yeah,
it would be a good journey.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. If you like what you've seen, like and subscribe on YouTube. Check out our website. That's oakroadhatter.com. On Twitter and Facebook, we're at Oak Road Hatter. On Instagram, Oak Road Hatter Pod. And our YouTube, Oak Road Hatter.